Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
If you have ever thought to yourself, well, I can't do something, we are here today to crush your can't.
Yes. And I think that's a very, very common thing that we all have, and it's at all different levels. If you haven't been and made it to a certain level in activity or like wherever you are, there's certainly doubt. There's self-doubt. It's basically self-protection, protecting your ego, maybe protecting your body. If it's something that's extreme, jumping out of place, things like that. But what we're talking about is, I think, oftentimes the big things we figure out, the big goals we figure out most often, but it's the small ones, the day-to-day ones, the little decisions or the little things I'm not sure, the self-doubt that can really throw your day off, and then that day turns into a week, turns into a month, and then all of a sudden you're not on the right path any longer.
Well, and I think this is especially true for people like as we get older, right? Because,
Yeah.
like you said, we're not talking about, mounting Everest, right? And
Right,
doing all
right.
those things. And there's
Yeah.
going to be people who are like, well, look, I'm a 46-year-old guy. I've never played basketball. I probably can't get into the NBA
Yeah.
at this point in my life,
Right.
right? But then I also have to ask the question, is that really a goal for me?
Right.
Is that
Mhm.
something I actually care about? If you're 46 and you want to get into the NBA, I would say if it's something you really want, there's probably a window there, right?
Yeah.
Oldest NBA player ever. But we're talking really about things you want, right? The
Yeah.
things that you have in your head that you want to do, that you're holding yourself back from. So, I want to write a book. I can't write a book,
Yeah.
right? All those little things. I want to run a 5K, but I'm too out of shape. I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're right that self-doubt pulls us back, but it's important to look at this really from that. Of course, there's things, big things that we say, well, we can't do that, but we just don't have interest in it. So we're talking about those
Right.
day-to-day things that are
Yeah.
holding you back.
Yeah. And especially when other people have done it, why are you selling yourself short?
Hmm.
What is it? I mean, somebody that's just like you or very similar to you or the same age as you, they did it. Why can't you?
Yeah.
Why are you making excuses? And the fear of failure, I think, is certainly part of that in there. The fear of looking stupid, all of those. I mean, basically FUD, fear,
Yeah.
uncertainty, and doubts. That's really what's driving a lot of it. And I think when we go through this, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's kind of simple, but that's what we do. We make things simple because success doesn't have to be complicated.
Hmm.
It really is, and often is simple. But don't confuse simple with easy. Don't confuse simple where it's going to be quick, because simple isn't quick, simple isn't easy, simple.
Yeah.
And most of the time we know, especially as adults, we know what we need to do. If we need to get in shape, we know that if we're sitting on the couch, watching videos instead of even walking, we know which is better. It's
Hmm.
not like you need to listen to a podcast to figure that out. But we need the motivation or we need the inspiration, whatever we need, and that's the purpose
Yeah.
for what we do.
And really, like I think the self-talking gets so deep over years, that eventually you convince yourself into it. Eventually you
Yeah.
talk yourself into the fact that,
Yep.
well, I guess I just can't get in shape. I guess I just
Right.
can't get my finances together. I can't start this
Right.
business
Yep.
because your subconscious has told you so many times, or you've told your subconscious so many times
Yeah.
that it just becomes fact. So I think this is great. 3 steps to get through that, to start taking action on the things you really want to do.
Yeah, and real quick, a quote that just came to mind when you're saying that, and you'll know this because this is from long ago. Tony Robbins, one of his main ones is the past does not equal the future.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
which to me it has a double meaning where your success in the past doesn't equal you're going to be successful in the future, right?
Yeah.
But what he meant by it at the time, at least when I heard it, was your mistakes in the past, just because you didn't do it in the past doesn't mean you're not going to do it in the future. And
Yeah.
that really is what we're talking about with this podcast.
It's funny. It's funny how as you progress in life, you learn the other side of that coin. Because I
Yeah.
agree with you. Like
Yeah.
when I first hear that, I say, "Oh well, yeah, obviously, like past failure me doesn't mean
Right.
like I can't be future successful me."
Right.
But then you start to learn that, well, just I've been successful, and
Right.
then and then right, like
And
so,
then not.
and then not. So it goes
Right.
both ways. That's cool. But
Yeah.
let's get into our stuff because I have some cool stuff, especially for this first one. I mean, no, number one is really about reframing your thoughts, and changing that can't into something else.
Right. Yeah.
And this is funny because, and I don't think I told you this last night, but somebody called the dojo last night about taking lessons, and we were talking on the phone, and this was really kind of interesting how this came up right before we recorded this. But I said, well, are you looking for martial arts? Have you trained before? We talked about black belt a little bit. And she said, well, I can't get a black belt. I'm 59. I'm out of shape. I'm just looking for self-defense. Right. But it was interesting
Mm.
because, first conversation, like you heard her. I'm too old. I'm
Right.
too old, out of shape. I can't do it.
Right.
Right. And she doesn't have the evidence that we have where
Right.
we've had people that age
Right.
in that shape come in and
And
achieve that
older.
and older, right?
Right.
But to her, because she had that lack of evidence, just completely disregarded it at first.
Hmm. Yep, yeah, and that's really the first part of this is what evidence do you have that you can't do it? So flip that around.
Yeah,
In your head, you have evidence that you can't do it, but what evidence is there that you really can't do it outside of that? And I think that's an interesting thing. Um, the other part of this is, what assumptions are you making? We all take shortcuts, and we have to have shortcuts in our head and in processing, so that way we're not overstimulated by everything going on, in front of us in our life. But sometimes we take shortcuts that aren't good.
yeah,
We just discount it, and it's a lot like that conversation you had last night with a woman that called. Is she immediately shortcutted to I can't because of my age?
yep,
you know
yeah,
and so you got to watch out for are your shortcuts hurting or helping you?
hmm,
Your shortcuts can help you. Like if you're thinking, man, you know what, I need to work out, I need to go to the gym in the morning, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, well, I gotta do this, I have to take a shower first, I have to lay this out, I have to find my sneakers, I don't like what I'm wearing, and you have 10 steps for you to go to the gym.
yeah,
You should shortcut that and just say, this is what I need to do. I need to get up this time, need to get dressed, and then I need to go. So you have three things instead of now, do you still have 10 things? Yes. But if you shortcut it in your head that you only have three things to do, that's going to help your motivation to get there. Otherwise, you're going to talk yourself out of it.
yeah.
So you can shortcut either way, but I encourage you to shortcut the positive way.
Absolutely. And like one thing I really like about the this kind of mindset shift is changing it from I can't to I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Right. And, like
Hmm.
I think we always talk about language and how important language is. And I know that people who listen to this gloss over the language component of how we talk to ourselves because
Yeah.
it sounds so hokey and it
Yeah, it
sounds
does.
so
Yep.
personal development, right? Like changing problem to opportunity. Like we've heard
Yep.
it so much that we kind of meld over it, but it's so important the way we say things, right? Especially not only the way other people hear them, but the way we internally hear it. So, when there's that thing you want to do, say write a book, right? Instead of saying I can't write a book, say I haven't written a book yet, and that will put it back into the realm of possibility of things that you can and are going to do.
I tell you that's one of the biggest things that's helped me, early on, that I learned to reframe certain words, and that specific one of a problem versus a challenge. It
Yeah.
just not only does it sound better when it comes out of your mouth, a challenge versus a problem, but it's going to affect the other people around you too, how you talk.
Yeah.
So, but internally, like you said, you have to have that because it does affect you. Even if you think it's hokey, it doesn't matter if it's hokey, it works.
Yeah.
It matters.
Yep.
And you're going to have to trust us because we've worked with enough people that it does matter.
I talk to a lot of business owners, and let me tell
Yeah.
you, we're in a tough time for business, right?
Yeah.
And there's the people who are saying, "Oh, it's a tough time," and then there's people who are saying, bring it on,
Yeah.
challenge accepted, bring it on.
Hmm.
And those people are exceeding, they're excelling, they're doing great,
Right.
so really take that language part to heart because
Yep.
like I
Yep.
said, I
For
know people
sure.
gloss over it because it sounds goofy,
Yeah.
but it really makes a big difference.
Yep. Yep. So next, step two is breaking your challenge into smaller parts. So breaking it down. So what is it that you want to accomplish? What is it that you immediately said you can't do, or you had doubt to do? What are something? What's even one step that you could do that can move you in that direction?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think this is, exactly what you talked about with shortcutting a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Is it's about breaking it down into
Hmm.
the manageable steps, and it's fun. I've got a friend who has a blog that he's run forever. If his blog's still a thing, I guess it is, but he's
Hmm.
run it forever. And when you talk to him about it, and you say, "Hey, man, you have a really nice blog," he goes, "I don't really have a blog." He goes, "I write for 15 minutes a day." And he goes,
Yeah.
"I successfully write for
Yeah.
15 minutes a day." And I think if somebody looks at a task as creating, I mean, look, podcasting, you know, we, I want to start a podcast, but it sounds so complicated. You just have to record. Like you just
Yeah.
literally, like you just have to pick up your, phone, pick up your computer, turn on record. Like it's not that difficult.
Right.
Start podcast feels big.
Yeah.
Recording, me talking for 15
Hmm.
minutes sounds a little more manageable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it. We started over 10 years ago and we talked about it for a few months. We met about it. It might have been, I would have to look back, but probably 6 months before we pulled the trigger on
Hmm.
it. And if you think about 10 years ago, not that there weren't podcasts, but it wasn't really that like now everybody seems like they have a podcast. But back then, there really wasn't that many.
Yeah.
There was a couple big ones, and there really wasn't a lot of smaller ones. Um, and our goal was just to start it and then not stop, you know. And we do at least 50 a year.
Yep.
So there's a couple weeks that we miss every once in a while. Um, but that's pretty consistent.
Is
That's pretty consistent for 10 years, I would say.
more consistent than most. And you
Right?
know what? But again, like you look at like we're getting ready to hit our 500th episode, right? And you look
Yeah.
at that and say, people look at it and go, "Wow, like it would be hard for me to
Hmm.
create that." And
Right.
then you say
Right.
it's like
Right.
if you and I sat down and said, "Let's come up with 500 episode ideas back in
Yeah.
2018 or 2017 or whenever we
Right.
started
Right.
this," we would have just muted right out and
Yeah.
said, "I don't think we can do this."
Right.
It's just that consistent small activity every
Hmm.
week that builds the thing that you want.
Right.
So I think really just really focusing in. If there's something you want to do, what is that first small step you can take? Like, what is the thing you can do? Tony Robbins again, right? Never leave the sight of a goal of a decision without taking a
Right.
first step.
Yep.
What can you do today? What can you do right now? Even if it's, you want to get in shape, you can
Right.
literally pause this podcast, do 10 push-ups right now, and you're
Yeah.
more in shape than you were if you didn't,
Right.
right? So yeah, that's it. That's all I have on that.
Yeah, and just to cap that up, it those small steps build into more, and it builds momentum. And oftentimes, what happens is once you discipline yourself to start it, and you say, "Oh, I'm only going to do this for 10 minutes," you end up doing it for 15 or 20.
Yeah,
And then sometimes that turns into 30 minutes, and then you're doing it every day. So I think if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's really one step in that direction, and just do that, and you'll be happy. But then all of a sudden you're not satisfied. You're happy with it, you're not satisfied, and you end up doing more. And even if you don't do more, you're still ahead of the game because you did more than nothing.
yeah,
So I look at it as a win-win. Even if you don't progress past that smaller step, it's still a bigger step than it's still a step that
yeah.
you weren't going to do anyways. So
100%. And then as we get into the third step, I mean this is so important. It's on my vision board, right? Like, I'm gonna say the number. I don't know if people who are listening are gonna know what the number means, but 3594, right? I mean 3594. That's the Roger Bannister first
mhm.
4 minute mile broken record,
Yep.
right? For generations, nobody could break
Right.
a 4 minute mile. It was physically impossible by a human.
Hmm.
Roger Bannister does it, and now the whole world can run faster,
Right.
because it was really a mindset hold
Hmm.
back, right?
Yep.
Can't was literally just a mindset
Right.
shift into
Yeah.
something else. So look for inspiration, in the world of other people. You're nobody's really that new or original. Other
Yeah.
people have faced the challenges you're facing
Yep.
right now. Look for those people, look for how they've overcome it, and take inspiration from that.
Well, that's why reading books, listening to podcasts. I've always enjoyed biographies and autobiographies because I like to learn from them. I like to watch certain things on the History Channel, not only to know about history, but especially the specific people. Um, and there's especially now there's so much knowledge out there and
Yeah.
there's so much inspiration and there's so many directions you can go. It's really about um, focusing and not focusing on things that are going to get you distracted because
Yeah.
distractions are out there, you know. But if you wake up in the morning inspired and ready to go, that's awesome. But it's usually because you set yourself up the night before.
Hmm.
We did a podcast a while ago, and I think I referred to it just a couple podcasts ago about bookend your days. That can definitely
Yeah.
help where you're ending your day with gratitude and you're setting your next day up with at least an outline of an action plan. And then when you get up in the morning, you do something, exercise, you feel good, and then get your day going. So that's pretty much the podcast in 30 seconds. I'd still listen to it though, but
Yeah.
that's basically what it is.
But a little bit of an extra tip here, because this is something I run into frequently, right? And this is a setback I run into a lot, and I'm going to throw it in here. Is we want to learn from other people, and we want to
Yep.
learn how to do things, right?
Yep.
I don't care what it is. You are often, when you do this, right, going to feel like you're taking a step backwards, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, anything you do, like I'll use real estate as an example because I work with real estate agents all day.
Mhm.
I say, these are the things you have to do. These are the basics. And they
Right.
say, oh, well, no, I already know that. I want to get to
Yeah.
this part,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And even martial arts, we see it, right? Like you have a white belt start and you say, you have to learn these things. And they go, no, 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 I can do that. Like I want to move to these things.
Yeah.
The foundational basics of anything you're learning to do are important, right?
Yeah.
If you're learning to fix things around your house and you skip the part where they're talking about the necessary tools because you go, that's okay, like I have tools, I can figure it
Right.
out, let me just get to it.
Right.
You're going to struggle later because you miss those foundational parts.
Right.
You have to learn the chords before you can play the song. So if you feel that way, that's okay. Don't be afraid to take that step back, start from the very beginning,
Hmm.
and take those slow steps forward.
Right. Yep. For sure. Yeah. And I think this one is an important recap of all the steps
Yep.
because the you have to I mean well let's review. Um, so the first one is really setting your mind up. Setting your mind up for success by realizing that, hey, listen, I got to reframe what I'm thinking and how I'm thinking, and the language that I'm using is going to affect me negatively or positively. So not only the external language I use with other people, but more important is the internal language because that's going to set the tone and the pace for the day, the week, or whatever. So that's step one.
Yeah. Step two, just break it down into smaller steps, right? So just, instead of I'm going to write a book, I'm going to write 15 minutes a day. Make it very simple,
Right.
make it manageable, and start today.
And then the last step, and this is why it's the last step, is seeking inspiration. And you should do it daily and even throughout the day. Whether that's checking in, reading a book, listening to a podcast, listen to a book, reading whatever it is, but getting that inspiration so you're ready to go. Bookend your days, listen to that podcast so that way you're ready and you're hitting the ground running when you get up versus wondering, hey, what am I going to do today? That's not a great way to live, unless you're retired and you don't have to worry about anything. But I think even that, I've heard people get bored.
Yeah.
So that's not even the case. There has to be a reason for you to be here, and there should be things that you accomplish, and it doesn't have to be money related. It's just something you accomplish so you feel worthy,
Yeah.
that you're going. So
Yeah. 100%. I think that's great. So crush your can't. There's nothing you can't do, especially the things that you want. So get on this, take action. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. If you know somebody who's struggling with the thing that they want to do, share this with them, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.